You played golf this morning?
I played golf this morning.
What'd you shoot?
I didn't keep track.
Why not?
Because I knew I was just going to be... Because I was playing in front of people that I don't know. Well, people that I know, but not people that I normally play in front of. So, I get nervous. I get shy.
So where'd you play?
We played at Little Creek. Because it was her friend Lindsay. It was her fiance that wanted to golf with us because she wants to get into golf. But I told her just use Alicia's clubs, feel it out, make sure it's something that you actually want to do before you go spend money on clubs. So it was her first time. Well, not her first time, but first time in a long time. So we went out and we just played 9 holes, and I was just kind of like doing my thing, but also like kind of giving her hints like, hey, do this, do that, be like this, be like that, use this club, use that club. And she didn't do too bad. The problem that she has going against her is she's a softball player. So
yeah, those swings don't align well.
I said that's going to hinder her a little bit. I said, but once you get a couple of rounds of golf in, like you kind of transition that swing a little bit. You kind of understand the mechanics a little bit more, and once you get more comfortable, like scooping a ball basically rather than hitting down on a ball or level with a ball.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that one or the other's harder because both have their challenges, but, you know, both sports also have different demands as you progress to different levels in the game. Like, you know, when you first get into softball, I think the concept largely is hit the damn ball. But then, you know, as you get to like the upper levels of softball, it's like, okay, I want to go left field, I want to go right field, I want to put it in the gap, I want to hit it high, I want to hit it low. But then with golf, you know, you get into shot shaping where it's like, okay, I don't want to hit this ball straight, I want it to have, you know, a 5-yard draw, so that way it can kick down the dog leg, and or you might want to hit a high fade into the green so it sits real nice because fades typically have more backspin. And like once you get into spin, the aspect of spin in golf, that's when you know you have reached a point where you either have to completely stop and walk away or you're never going to recover.
Yeah. But you kick off the addiction where like you play that first round and you're like, this is nice. It starts to just, oh, I'm spending all of my money. I'm thinking about golf quite often. Wow, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to swing and how to do this and these people. And, wow, I've spent a lot of money on golf attire. And, oh, wow, I'm shooting golf balls into my veins now.
Yeah. I am so thankful that I learned everything I learned about golf before the YouTube era. But
yeah. Because there's that's the problem with like the internet just as a whole is you have so much information, but you have to like know what is true and what is just bullshit.
Well, yeah, so golf is a perfect example. Like the swing foundationally, there are so many quick fixes that you can do for issues, and if you build your game around, you know, I run into this problem, I fix it. I run into this problem, I fix it. I run into this problem, I fix it. You eventually get to a point where you've fixed so many problems and you've made so many quick fixes that don't align in the bigger picture of how you build the foundation of a swing, that it turns out looking like somebody's, you know, cracking a whip and then doing a little loop-de-loo at the end of their, you know, follow-through. And it's like, it's not sound to repeat in tournament pressure, and that's why I think you really should lean on, you know, people that I won't say necessarily professionals, like those are definitely the best avenue to go to, but people that are of that caliber or who have that understanding of the different foundations of the swing, so when they do problem fix for you, they can do it within the confines of like your swing plane, and, you know, just keep making sure that you're in the right positions at the right place, and you're not just, you know, coming over the top because you've got the club face way closed, and you're actually hitting the ball hard right and aligned, you know, 50 yards to the right. And It can be a bad situation real quick. But
Yeah, it's such a fun game though. I love playing golf.
I love the science of it. I don't love
There
golf
is-
anymore. I mean, I do. I don't. I do.
You kind
I-
of it's kind of like baseball. Like even though I haven't played baseball in how long. Like if I go to Camden Yards and I walk in that ballpark and I get that nice ballpark smell, I'm just like, oh my god, I love this. And then you sit in like your bleachers and you're either on one of the baselines or maybe you're in center field or wherever you're at. Like you cannot beat that ballpark experience. Right before the game starts, it's just, dude, I love it. It just, I don't think about baseball much at all. But when you're in a baseball stadium about to see a game, it just all just, God, I love this.
So just to like touch on that real quick, I've been to 3 major league ballparks, I think, total.
Mm-hmm.
Being Camden Yards, growing up an Orioles fan, always an Orioles fan. We took the girls out to Citizens Bank Park many, many years ago to see the Phillies to see the Fanatic and all that because, you know, it's right, it's the same drive.
It's really not that far.
And then when I went to L.A. Several years back, one of my key reasons for going there was to go to Dodger Stadium. And I love Camden Yards. I think it's amazing. But as an Orioles fan, walking into Dodger Stadium, knowing that's where they won the 66 World Series, and sitting there and just looking at that field and knowing, like, this went down here.
That takes a place and just amplifies the experience. When you're standing in a place and you're like, okay, like, I'm here. It's a ballpark or it's a, you know, piece of history or whatever. Like, when we went to Salem, we were standing in, like, the witch trial buildings and stuff, and we were just like walking around, and it's like, cool, this is awesome. But then you think about it a little harder and you're like, this stuff however many years ago went down right where I'm standing.
Mm-hmm.
What
I'm really excited. So in a few weeks, my daughter has a field trip to Gettysburg as part of their 5th grade curriculum, and I was actually selected as one of the chaperones. So I'm super excited to go out there with her because I want to see her reaction when I explain to her President Lincoln was here.
Yeah.
This was the deadliest battle in U.S. history on U.S. soil.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that, and it's like, it's mind-blowing to think.
And then, like, to even watch, like, a documentary where they show, like, actual pictures or, you know, different things that went down wherever, and you get to see that stuff in the space that you were in to even put it into, like, even bigger perspective. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
whoa.
Well, I think it would be cool. It obviously doesn't make sense because the Battle of Gettysburg was smack dab in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
But that's when they do the reenactments. So if they could do school trips during reenactments,
That'd be wild.
that would really throw kids for a loop because, you know, they'd be like, wait a minute, he's in, like, the old stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what a soldier
Dude,
looks like today.
Those guys go balls to the walls with their outfits and stuff. It is crazy.
Some of those guys are wearing real wool
Yeah.
in July.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's no tree. Like,
Yeah, they are, like, dedicated. I could never. I
could be the guy with the cannon. Yeah. I would totally do that, but
just put me in, like, shorts and a t-shirt. I'll just fire the cannon every now and then.
with a visor and a pair of aviators. And you're just sitting there, it's like 4. Woo!
All right, let's get into the first little topic
Wait.
here before we go into
I have
the
an idea.
albums.
I have a riddle for you.
What's that?
You can think about this for the whole episode. We'll answer it at the end. Why did the prisoner choose bread over the key?
Okay, I will have to think about that because I have no idea.
It's wild. This is a wild one. This is a think deep, think outside the box. not a straightforward answer. You kind of have to articulate that one. So, but keep in mind, we'll touch on it.
Okay. So, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I read an article and I saw a couple of YouTubers talking about how it's not selling as well as as part 1. And it's selling about half of what it did. So I think a lot of that has to do with the time frame that it got released, because the first part came out during like prime shutdowns when it was just like hard line, you're closed, you're at home.
Nobody else had
don't
anything
go
to do.
anywhere. You had nothing else to do. Like
Right.
that came out. Games at that point, like you shouldn't even look at sales numbers from those times because it's so inflated that it's not even right. So it got released then, so that has something to do with it. The game's getting reviewed well. It's being praised by people who enjoy the Final Fantasy VII remakes and stuff.
Shocker.
And to me, what I said when we covered Final Fantasy VII in like the retrospective video is I think something that's hindering the game and the releases and the sales numbers and all of that is you did it in 3 parts. There's another whole game release. Like you're releasing 3 games as one experience. I think if they did it, even if they did it in 2 parts, where this was like the second half and then this was it, I think it probably would have sold better. Because what they could have done then is they could have done the original game release where it comes out, get those sales in, do whatever. Eventually, you can do a 2-pack of like a dual release, and scoop up that money or whatever, do something or another.
Yeah, so I think when you release things in segments or subdivisions like that, in this case there's 3 subdivisions, I think you introduce the concept of creating a dependency of any sequel releases on the prior release in a story-based game like that, in the sense that I, as a consumer who enjoy Final Fantasy, am not just going to buy part 2 or part 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to want to buy part 1 first and complete that before I purchase part 2. So if I haven't had the time to get through that, I'm not going to buy part 2.
Yeah.
So it introduces the potential where somebody buys part 1, never really finishes it, and actually never goes to the next 2 releases that are sales points for you.
Yeah.
Something I'm more interested in than even that would be how part 1 sales compare to the original sales back way back.
Yeah.
And of course, I think you have to do a bit of analysis and maybe some extrapolation on the availability difference, and versus like console was new then, this console's established, that. But I think they should line up pretty well if you want to, say, greenlight another one of these rebirths.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think about is when you issue like part 2 of a 3-part series, it would almost be more beneficial to charge a little more and include part 1 with part 2. It essentially renders, the part 1 stuff obsolete at that point, but what you've done is you've gotten that piece of software to market earlier, and it's kind of in line with the concept that we use in software development for more business-based products, which is referred to as vertical slicing, where you have 3 layers of a system. You can work on one layer separately. If you do that, you can't use the user interface when just the data layer is done, or you can do it vertically, where you're working on all 3 layers at the same time and introducing new functionality as you go, and then you're realizing benefit from the first release, and it just grows from there. So there's a couple different ways they could have spun that one, but it's sad to hear that it's not really performing.
Yeah, I think another thing too that they kind of have working against them is it is a PlayStation exclusive, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly, it's only a PS5 release. See, Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 1 was for PS4. Who had PS4s? Everybody.
Well, if they don't
especially at that point.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't have Part 3 on PS4, if they just dropped console support like midway through this, I think that's a big, 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 like, miscue.
So if I don't remember, but if Rebirth didn't come out for PS4 as well, that's a problem, because PS5s were limited for a long time, and still kind of limited in, how you can get them in availability and stuff. I think they're a little easier to get now, and I think they had some price drops too, because the Slim console came out for the PS5. But still, like, you still have to buy a $350, $400 console. I think they're like $350, $400 now.
I just priced one.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't have one. I only have a PS4.
I swear, because my buddy just bought. We were looking at one because the guy I buy games from and stuff had one, and my buddies were buying one for their buddy, and he was going to sell it to him, but they found one for a better price, and then we looked at Best Buy, and it was like $350, I think, for the disc, or $400 for the disc.
I might have to go look into that. That must be a recent development, because this was less than a month ago that I looked at it, and it was $500.
This was like Friday.
Yeah, so like maybe 2 weeks ago, it was still $500 for the optical drive. Walmart.
I think they've dropped. Don't ever look at Walmart. Look at Best Buy. That's where I look, because Walmart, you get muddled stuff because they allow third party selling. So, like, if I wanted to look up GoldenEye 007 on the internet and I went to Walmart and looked it up.
No, I was in store.
Oh,
I just like swung by the I swung by the electronics counter, and that was just the price on the shelf. Which, by the way, the shelf was also empty. So
yeah, I don't think they've been really updating that too hard. But speaking of Walmart, I'll just include this now because now is the time. The physical games at Walmart are on hard clearance right now. Like, a bunch of games got like dropped in price down to like $20. A lot of good games, and a lot of other games got dropped to like $5, $10. I went and just bought World of Outlaws Sprint Car Racing for $5. I bought Spyro Reignited Trilogy for $5.
That's where you got all that?
Walmart, brand new, sealed in the case. $5 a piece. And on Amazon, I just bought Metal Gear Solid, the Master Collection Volume 1 for $30, and I got AEW Fight Forever for PS5 for $10 on Amazon too. Like, there's a bunch of like clearance stuff going on with Walmart and all of that stuff. So like, if you're looking for physical games and stuff for dirt cheap, check your local Walmarts. Go in. You can check online too, because they have a lot of prices online and stuff. They have Switch stuff that dropped. Like, a bunch of physical stuff has dropped there, and it's pretty good deals if you're looking to pick up some games.
Yeah, I mean, if they're left by the time we air this, but
true.
I know some physical stuff that dropped at Walmart. I think I was 11. Anyway,
so we'll hop into our music segment here. We'll pick up at 2011, and you may notice that I don't have my trusty notepad in my hand because we have a screen right in front of us now showing us all the information. So
if I had known this, I would have made some like ornate dashboard and plopped it up there.
It's pretty nice. I like it. I don't know what to do with my hands. I feel naked without the notepad.
Well, do me a favor. Don't get naked and keep your hands to yourself.
Oh, I forgot to like label which ones were top 4. I should be able to figure it out.
I guess we're going to have to pick it on the fly.
So 2011, the honorable mentions are Trapped Under Ice, Big Kiss Goodnight. I think this one probably flew under your radar. I don't know if you were into Trapped Under Ice at all. Yes, no? You weren't really into like hardcore at the time. This album came out and the scene that I was in, dude, people went nuts for this album, and it's understandably so. Like, this album's solid.
Never ever heard of it.
The other honorable mention here is gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 albums, so there's 3 honorable mentions. Yellow Wolf Radioactive. I think that's going to be an honorable mention. This was his first. I think was this his first release when he got with Eminem. It's a good album. It's not his best stuff. His best stuff came like a little bit prior to this before he was signed, and then after this is when he started really doing a lot of good stuff. And
yeah, we're actually going to talk about him in a year. So
the other honorable mention here is going to be Aaron Lewis, Town Line. I think this is his debut album as a country artist. He is the vocalist for Stained, for those who don't know. And dude, I love Aaron Lewis. I absolutely love his country stuff. I can listen to it all day long.
Yeah, I think it's cool that he can transcend multiple genres. I mean, he's not my favorite country artist
not my favorite country artist, definitely not. But his voice lends itself very, very well to singing a country song.
Yeah, I mean,
the deep, raspy voice.
It is stereotypical country.
It's very, very good.
I just hope he remembers to take the cowboy hat off before the Stained show.
I think there was a Stained show that he was wearing a cowboy hat. I could be wrong because I don't think he really wears a cowboy hat much. I could be wrong. Maybe if he's like getting like dressed up at like an event or something, he might rock a cowboy hat.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess there's a couple of them that wear baseball hats, but
he's big hat guy. Yeah, he wears hats a lot. So the top 4, The Story So Far, Under Soil and Dirt. This album was a ripper and a half. This is like that punchy, in-your-face pop punk that's like, whew, I have a soft spot for it. It's so good. And this was like their burst onto the scene.
Yeah, this was...
And they came in hard and swinging.
This was the beginning of a new kind of... I don't know if I want to use the term era, but I will, for pop punk. You know, before this, we had a whole lot of Blink-182 type pop punk like early on, and then we had the all-time low stuff.
Singy. This is like throaty, like blending that line between like a hardcore and pop punk like blend.
Yeah, I think this like introduced the later style of Hit the Lights. Real Friends comes to mind as like one of the more modern bands that kind of align with these guys. Handguns, yes, elements of that I think kind of align with that. And you know, is this the album that started it all?
It's definitely in the conversation because I remember when this album came out and the song Mount Diablo, like that one was just insane. That drum part in the beginning and then the guitars fade in and it's just that like real throaty, like raspy type of singing. It's so good. Such a good album.
I feel like it had a lot of Wonder Years feel to it.
Kind of, yes. But it was
with
definitely more punchy.
Right, yeah. The guitar parts, the drums were definitely, how do you say?
More hardcore influenced for sure.
Without a doubt. Like, it was, you know, almost breakdown-ish compared to, like, the pop punk that you were used to where somebody would just do an octave run over a chorus. And
yeah. So the next one for the top 4 is Limp Bizkit, Gold Cobra. So this album, for me, came out of left field because I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't paying attention to Limp Bizkit. They hadn't put anything out for a long time. And they just kind of put a couple songs out from this album, and it was like, oh, like, they're back. And boy, did they come back swinging in this album because it's classic Limp Bizkit. It's the classic new metal that you've come to know and love. It's solid, solid album. Transit, Listen and Forgive. This album is incredible. I listened to this album, and then I discovered that they were playing at the Chameleon like that same day. I literally got home from work and just left and went to see them at Chameleon. And
you wouldn't do that today.
No, absolutely not. This
You
album
should,
is
but
like,
you would. Well, I mean, Chameleon's closed, but
it's more like I wouldn't say technical, like melodic pop punk, because I wouldn't even call it pop punk per se. Like, it's definitely more melodic and singy and like in your feelings kind of. And they got Patrick Stump to do guest vocals.
we got AJ to sing on the first EP, so
I guess that's true, yeah. And then the last one for the top 4, Gideon Costs. This probably isn't on your radar, Gideon.
I remember it. I don't remember it well, but I mean, it's not going to be my pick. So.
This band, ever since this album, has just put out absolute bangers, especially the new stuff that's just coming out. God damn, dude. It is heavy. It is in your face. It is just so damn good. It's really like, it's really clean in like how riffy it is, and with like the riffs, when you stop playing in that riff, it is dead quiet. Like, it is just muted. It's like really rhythmic and like kind of offbeat at the same time, if that makes sense. It's incredible. I love Gideon.
So basically, you're saying that they are like the Mandingo of hardcore?
No, they are definitely. I wouldn't call them hardcore per se. Like that, trying to define hardcore is
a
nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
To your point, though, like that muting thing where like it's that's good production and engineering.
Yeah,
like that's
definitely.
more on them than it is on the guitarist, because I don't know a guitarist that can keep his guitar entirely silent.
Even them live, because I saw them live at the Champ. I got thrown out of that show. Surprising.
Shocker.
So
who'd you hit with the trash can this time?
I didn't hit anybody with a trash can this time. But I think out of these albums, I honestly think Gideon Costs, because I went back and I listened to these albums, and that Costs album is just, it just beats out all the rest.
My vote is Story So Far. I think
respectable choice.
I think they really changed the landscape with this one.
I agree.
And like,
I agree.
In thinking about, given what's there, I see Impact as being very, very important, and then I look at the rest of the list and I'm like, yep, that definitely all traces back.
Yeah. So this year, 2012, I might get a little emotional here, because one of the albums in here punched me in the face more than it ever had, and I will tell you why when we get to it. So the honorable mentions: Aaron Lewis, The Road, another Aaron Lewis album. This was I think this was more of when he got like bigger, and he put a lot more more songs on the album, and he had maybe a little bit more confidence going into it. Album's incredible, of course. Like I said, I love Aaron Lewis as a country artist. Absolutely just rock solid. You can't go wrong. Yellow Wolf and Travis Barker, Psycho White. This was a combination that I didn't know I needed, because it was killer. The drum work of Travis Barker with like the hip hop roots and the beats with Yellow Wolf, dude, insane. And I think We saw that live with, well, me and my wife saw, but maybe that was before this came out. I don't remember. It was at Chameleon. I don't know. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're in the top 4. So, like you said, Real Friends. Here they are. Everyone that dragged you here. This is the Real Friends album. This is Sleepy Eyes and Bony Knees.
This is the beginning of Real Friends.
They started like the Midwest emo, didn't they? That sound.
Looking back, I don't think it's their best album.
Ooh, that's...
I don't think that was their best album.
I don't know. Because they do have, like, in this album, they do have, like, some... I wouldn't say heavy guitar tone, but they do have, like, a more, like, aggressive guitar, like, style. It's not as, like, all over the place with, like, the Midwesty, like, finger picking and then into, like, the strumming of the chords and, like, the bobbing. Like, this was more, like, kind of their... for a lack of a better term, aggressive. It was more like of a pop punk feel rather than like a pop-ish feel.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like the guitar tone on that album sounded like a 5150 reamped through a Mesa, but...
I mean, it very well could have been.
Yeah, well, dude, plugins and like the other stuff that they have these days for...
I love this Real Friends album. It's the one that really put them out, and everybody started eating their music up.
Yeah,
they were huge. And funny story, when we were playing in Common Ground, we used to play with a band from Maryland called Distances. The vocalist of Distances is in a live shot on a Real Friends shirt.
there you go.
The next one is Handguns, Angst. Dude, this is exactly what it sounds like. It is teenage angst in an album.
Bang.
It is, my boss is an asshole. Screw you. I'm going home. I'm sneaking out of the house, Mom and Dad. I'm going to, be with my girlfriend and hang out with my friends. Dude, if you haven't heard this Handguns album, go and listen to it because, dude, it is everything that you did, well, everything that we did as teenagers, and it's just a trip down memory lane. It's angst. It's angst. Exactly. The name is perfect. It is angst.
Well, and this was early Handguns too, I think, wasn't it?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, like not necessarily like some of their first releases.
I think
but
this was like their second.
This was their
like,
first
full
or second
release.
full length. What an album! Not really the future sounding pop punk that we're talking about. Blends a little bit of that, but it's really more homage to what was on its way out. So
yeah. I love their sound too because it's that faster pace. Like Taylor had that real like throaty, high pitched vocal, but it wasn't like a clean. It was more like in your face, aggressive. Just it's so good.
Handguns very much embodied the punk side of pop punk
Yes.
with the ideas of early retirement, and it's like,
yep,
this isn't early retirement. This is me getting fired. Right? It's like I'm getting fired from a pizza shop, and you can shove it because I don't care. So, I think that's cool. But.
Yeah, dude, it's like I said. If you're in your mid-30s, this album will lend itself to you. Just listen to it. Imagine you're 16 years old. You're working at that pizza shop, and your boss is like, "Hey, can you work a double today? So and so called off," and you're just like, "No," and he's just like, "Well, you don't really have a choice, or else you're fired." And you're just like, "I quit." Stick to Your Guns, Diamond. Lordy, this is one of my favorite albums from Stick to Your Guns. This was when they really started hitting the scene like hard and becoming who they are today. And really writing that meaningful, like, music about just being a good human, basically, and not being a big bag of dicks.
Yeah, that's paradoxical because I actually just watched a reel last night that said it went over the 4 truths of life as like being, this authoritative source on what the big things that mean something in life are. And number 2, interestingly enough, was anyone with a good heart will finish last because they always put others first.
Makes sense.
Which
yeah.
I largely agree with, but to that extent, it went on to say that you shouldn't give everyone attention. You should instead give them silence because not everyone is deserving of your attention. And kindness. Kindness
Yeah.
was the key there. And that's where it like really departed for me because I was like, I'm pretty sure most people are good and deserve kindness, but good try.
I've listened to this album from front to back so many times. It's insane. And it's absolutely perfect from front to back. It's the songs hit, the lyrics hit, everything about it is just top notch. It deserves everything and then some. It's so good. And it would have been my pick for this until I visited this album again that I'm about to say, and these 2 songs in this album just kicked me in the throat so hard, and that is The Ghost Inside, Get What You Give. My God. So this is my pick, and I'll tell you why. So it's an album that was dedicated to the vocalist's brother, Ryan. The songs that he wrote for this album cater to those who've experienced loss, grief, who are down on themselves, who don't see that light at the end of the tunnel. They can't get up. They just don't know how to carry on. And these songs just tell you exactly how to get through that. And lyrically it tells you it does get better. And it hits, like, the guitars are heavy, the drums are heavy, the lyrics are just in your face, in your ears, just full force, swinging at 100 miles an hour. It's so damn good. Have you heard this album?
Twice.
It's, dude, I mean, so I don't know if I can even read these lyrics because if you don't know, if you've never experienced loss, look up the lyrics for White Light and look up the lyrics for Slipping Away and listen to the songs for one. If I could put them in the video, I would, but copyright says no. But the lyrics are so just, it cannot describe it any better. I wish I could read them, but I really don't think I can without crying. You're reading them now?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine my situation.
Yeah, you shouldn't read these. I mean, if you want me to read them, I'll read them. But
I want to, but I'll have you read them because I really don't think I can get through them. But to put it into context, I'm mid-30s, and I have lost both of my parents. I lost my dad in 2011, and I lost my mom last year. So that's a 13-year gap between losing them. Read the lyrics to White Light.
Is that the top one?
Yes.
I used to be the fearless one, living each day like death would never come. I feel his cold breath on my neck. He's watching my steps and telling me that I could be next. I am so lost at sea, Ryan. Shine the light for me. I'm sinking. I can't swim. I need you here to pull me in. I am so lost at sea, Ryan. Shine your light for me. I'm sinking. I can't swim. I miss you. Brother, you will never dim.
Dude, those lyrics at the end of that song are just because it's like it's a more melodic part to the end, and he is just screaming in like this. It's more of like a faint. It's not like front vocals. It's more like background in the background vocals. But basically, he's screaming out to his brother who has passed away of like, dude, I'm sinking. I can't swim. I don't know what to do without you.
Well,
It sums it up perfectly.
yeah, I mean, it leans on this metaphorical approach to loss being drowning,
It's exactly what it
in
feels like.
a sea that is just absolutely consumed by storms. And, I've dealt with losses over the years as well, in some ways, but nothing like you have. I can't even fathom that. So to articulate it in that kind of framing, and then when you build the song around it with, a very, very large melodical guitar part and probably some driving drums, if I remember correctly.
It's very just punchy, very heavy breakdowns.
And then you tuck the vocal underneath, so that way it almost presents this sense where you're lost, you're far away, you can't be found, and it all just kind of paints this picture that, we don't listen to music to hear it. We listen to music to feel it.
Yes. The thing, like, this album really, if I was to tell somebody who doesn't listen to heavy music, where they're like, I don't hate it, but I'm just not seeking it out, I would tell them to listen to this album and to just sit in a chair, put your headphones in, close your eyes, and just feel the guitars, feel the drums, feel the screaming vocals just driving the music, because it really takes the message of the songs and amplifies it. That's what this kind of music does. And this is why people resonate with these kinds of bands so much, like the heavier, more like metalcore, melodic hardcore type of music, is because it takes the lyrics and the subject matter and just amplifies it. Because what do you want to do when you don't know what to do and you can't think of a way out? You want to scream.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're seeing this band live and you resonate with these songs, you will scream at the vocalist the songs right along with him.
well, you think about it, the instrumentals, that what do they do physically on a physical aspect? When you hear things like that, it raises your heart rate, it raises your blood pressure.
Yeah.
It makes you more aware to a degree. I think that that's great, and it lends super well to what we're trying to accomplish with this.
Yeah, like the subject matter on this album, because even with Slipping Away, like, it's not even like that. The White Light, what we just read, is more about losing his brother and how he feels without his brother, which I haven't lost a brother. I've lost two parents, kind of the equivalent there. And like, I couldn't imagine, especially if they were like relatively close in age, like, I couldn't imagine that. I couldn't imagine losing, a brother that was close to my age, and how that would feel, especially if you're close. Like, I mean, losing a parent's hard enough. Losing both of them is almost impossible, but losing another family member like that would just be a whole different experience and a whole new level of loss and grief and stuff like that. So the next song, Slipping Away, it's more about like failure and how to get through it. So it's nothing could prepare you, but we try our best, failure upon failure. What happens next? Nothing's ever easy, and life still goes on. Don't stop pushing on before you become withdrawn. I've become withdrawn. So, like, those lyrics hit hard, too, because it's very true on, like, nothing can prepare you for anything. No matter how much you prepare for something, no matter how much you have accepted that things are going to happen the way that they're going to happen, you're still not prepared for it. When it happens, it's like a brand new experience. You forget everything you prepared for. And everybody fails, and everybody fails 1,000 times before they succeed. So what happens next? It's never easy. It's never easy to get back up from failure and try again. It's never easy. But life goes on. That's a thing to look at. Like, especially if you're a person grieving, if you're a person that's experienced loss and you're in the thick of it and you're sinking, you don't know how to swim, you're just in a endless void and there is no light around you and you don't know what to do. You're in the darkest place you've ever been. You have no idea how you're going to get out. Remember, life doesn't stop. Life goes on. So what do you have to do? You have to push on. Lace up your boots, tie them tight, start climbing that mountain. Get yourself out of it. It's the best thing you can do because you can't sit in there forever.
I don't wear boots.
You can't sit in there forever. And what happens is when you're dealing with all of this stuff and you get to the point where you're like, I don't want to become, like he says, I don't want to be withdrawn. But then you realize that you are withdrawn. You're exactly what you didn't want to become. You know, where it's like, I could never be depressed. Well, guess what? A couple days later, you could realize, shit, I'm depressed. It's very easy to fall into things that you don't think could ever happen to you. This album, going back and listening to it, really hit me in the feels really, really hard.
Do you remember that commercial that had the little bouncing ball that was always sad? It was an antidepressant commercial, and then like they gave him the depression medicine, and he turned yellow and smiled.
No. But I want to recommend that everybody go listen to this album, even if you don't like heavy music. If you can bear heavy music, give this album a listen because I don't think it gets the flowers it deserves. But that's my pick. I wanted it to be Stick to Your Guns because I absolutely love that album. But after revisiting this album, I couldn't pick anything else. Let me guess on your pick. Real Friends. No? Handguns? No? Well, then I'm lost.
The Ghost Inside.
Yeah? Is it because of everything we just talked about?
No, I looked at this earlier, and I listen to Angst more than I listen to the rest of them. I'll be honest about that. Like, that comes up in my shuffle a lot. But, you know, even without the aspect of loss, you know, I guess with my situation, it's different but similar. In some cases, there becomes a point when you've lost someone and they're still here.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that's unfortunately what I had to watch for both of my parents is like they were still here, but they had left
Exactly.
a week prior, 2 weeks prior.
Yeah, so you know it's like extending that over the course of years is,
and it does
fun.
it really messes you up because it gives you that false hope because you're not like you accept it. You're like, look, I'm prepared for this when it happens. No, you're not. Right. I'm expecting this to happen. No, you're not. I'll tell you right now, you're not because they are still there. It is still, you can still drive down the road, drive 20 minutes away, and you can still go visit them, whether they're awake, whether they're sleeping, whether they're in a coma, whatever it is that you have, they are still physically there. You can reach out and you can touch them.
Exactly.
When that is taken away and you can no longer just pick up the phone, that's when it becomes real. That's when you experience loss. That's when you start to experience grief. And that is when you start to really be tested on how you can handle that. And who is around you to help you. Because another thing in this album that they talk about is when you need somebody to show up, who's actually going to show up? Because I guarantee out of anybody's friends, if you have 10 friends and you experience something like this, on average, I guarantee this many will be there for you, no matter what.
Well, unless you call it Ghostbusters.
It's everything about this album just... It really just touches, especially somebody who's dealt with all of this stuff, you know, and just friends that just really fall apart and they're not who they say they are. This album is for you. 100%. So 2013, we've got, for honorable mentions, we've got Silverstein, This Is How the Wind Shifts. So I think this. Do you think this is honorable mention?
You bitch!
Was that gonna be your pick?
Fuck you!
Okay, I'll change it then. Logic.
Logic, yeah, thank you.
Logic, Young Sinatra, Welcome to Forever.
Take that album back to Baltimore.
This is when he was releasing. This is before he became big and huge and who he is now. It's good. It really is. It's Logic. It's good, but it's definitely not as polished as his stuff now, and you know what he released in the past. What's another honorable mention that you want on there? I can say another honorable mention because I know one.
Either the last one or...
Absolutely not.
The third one.
That's what I was going to say. Eminem's Marshall Mathers LP, too. It was decent, but I think this is when Eminem was putting stuff out where he hadn't really caught that stride with his newer stuff. He was kind of like... This was a sequel to the Marshall Mathers LP, so like it was kind of like hitting on those songs and the subject matter in those songs and trying to like kind of envision it. It's good, but I haven't gone back and listened to it until this, and it was just kind of...
This was a release for the sake of releasing.
I agree. Out of the top three at the top of the list, which one's the weakest?
The third one.
The third one? So the other honorable mention, I think it's the top one for me.
Yeah.
The last honorable mention, Real Friends, Put Yourself Back Together. This is a good Real Friends album, and they're still real friends, and they're still sad boys and everything, but it wasn't Everyone That Dragged You Here.
Are they still real friends?
Are they still making music? I think they are.
I thought so.
I think they are.
I don't know, but...
So the top four...
Wait. No, that was after 2015.
So the top four, Silverstein, This Is How the Wind Shifts. To me, it had its couple of songs, and like I can put it on and listen to it from front to back, but I'd have to be in a certain mood to listen to it from front to back.
I live in that mood. Yeah,
This one was a good one for you? You like this one?
it's not my favorite Silverstein album, but I feel like this was kind of like their finale, if you will. Because I haven't really been a fan of anything that come out since then, like in a super big way.
I mean, it's not hitting like When Broken Is Easily Fixed and
Exactly.
Discovering the Waterfront.
But this one was marginally close, so
I can respect it. It's a good album.
and more importantly, amongst the options, it's like, okay, we don't have a whole lot to work with here.
Well, for me, the last one is.
I've never heard that one.
You're going to. The story so far, What You Don't See. This was when they were still in their, like, this wasn't as punchy as Under Soil and Dirt, but it still had the more throaty vocals, the in-your-face vocals. It was still, like, more leaning towards that punk-esque type of sound, which I like. I mean, I like this album. I like from Under Soil and Dirt. Those two albums, but to me, are like the story so far in their prime. Absolutely fantastic. I love this album. This is like the green vines and stuff on the front.
Yeah.
No, not really a fan of this one.
Take it. Think they could have done better.
The third one.
Sorry, guys.
Third one for the top four. Turnstile, Step to Rhythm. I forgot about this album. And when I was doing research for these years, I was having trouble looking at like major releases when I looked at like the Wikipedia for albums released in 2013. So I had to dig deeper because I had discovered that some of this stuff wasn't in those lists. So I searched up pop punk releases in 2013, and I really looked up like I think it was hardcore releases in 2013, and this album came up. I was like, huh, I haven't listened to that in a while.
Well, yeah, I don't think they included the super indie labels on those lists.
And I put that on, and I was like, oh, I remember this album now. This album is sick. So it deserved to be in the top four because it's a ripper. This is when hardcore started to show the influences from like Metallica and like that style of like really like thrash metal influences. Not even like super fast drums, but like the guitar wise, it was just like, it was so good. I love this album, and it's really, really good because it's not like yelling vocals. It's not screaming vocals. It's more like yelling vocals. It's like throaty pop punk over like hardcore, really like stop and go.
Stop. You make me want to pull it up, and I can't do that.
This last album is my pick for sure because this is another album that I kind of forgot about. Wow. Twitching Tongues, In Love, There Is No Law. Listen to this album because this is such a unique sound. It still blows my mind. Like they were huge when this album came out. Funny story about this album. We were going to a show in Baltimore at Charm City Art Space. Have you ever been there? We were going to a show. I don't even know if it was Twitching Tongues who was playing. A couple people we knew wanted to go see Twitching Tongues. We didn't really know who Twitching Tongues was at this time. We were like, sure, let's go. Like, that was our thing. We just go to shows and, like, be in a big, giant group of people. They opened with, like, their heaviest song off this album. And we had listened to a song called Preacher Man on the way down because we were just like, we got to figure out who we're seeing. They played Preacher Man on the way down, and I was like, oh, this is like heavy, but it's not like heavy. It's more singing. It's not like yelling or screaming. It's singing melodically, and well.
And then you got there.
But there's like some heavy guitar parts in it, but it's not like breakdowns. It's just like high gain, just chunky guitar. And I was like, oh, like this is pretty good. Like it'll be like more sing-alongs. Boy, was I wrong. We are like, there's the front, there's the middle where everybody like moshes, and then there's the back. We were just kind of chilling in the back. We were like kind of against a wall. We're just like there. And they come on stage and they're set up and they open and they play the heaviest riff off this album. The place pops off. I'm getting punched in the head. Alicia's getting punched in the head. We're just like, what? Is this the same band here? What is going on? And it went off. And we were like, oh, this band's heavy. Okay. So then I listened to the whole album, and I see now it takes influences from so many different genres of like metal and just pushes them together in like a melodic sing-song type like sound. It's very like, imagine the bigness of like the black metal bands like Behemoth and like Ghost, where they're like really like instrumental and just they have kind of like violins going on in the background, and there's guitar, there's like acoustics kind of tucked in there every now and then. It's that broad of a spectrum of like in a song, but the guy's like singing well. And you're just like, it's really big sounding. It's like a cathedral type of sound. It's really good. I think you would honestly maybe like it, or you would just probably hate it. One of the two.
I doubt I would hate it, but if this is the band that turned Charm City Art Space into one big circle pit, I'm down.
Dude, it was like unexpected. It was crazy. This album is incredible. Listen to it. Twitching Tongues, In Love There Is No Law. That is my pick. And the album art for this is sick. I have the long sleeve that I was going to wear, and I had it on for the day we were originally supposed to record this, but that didn't happen. So now it's dirty, and I didn't wash it. Boom. What's your pick?
Silverstein.
I knew it. I think that would be Ty's pick, too.
No. Ty would definitely pick Real Friends.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think he likes that album, even though we didn't include it in the top.
2014.
Oh!
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Which one's the odd one out?
I know which one it is for me.
Give me a number.
So, number 1 is locked in, number 2 is locked in, and number 3 is kind of locked in.
I think number 5 is probably your honorable mention.
Jason Aldean, Old Boots, New Dirt. Me personally, maybe it's a hot take, maybe it's not. I'm not really that big of a Jason Aldean fan. Hot take?
Do you listen to him at all enough to know?
I've listened to quite a few of his songs just on
so
like...
3.
No.
Okay, 5.
You should know me by now, is when I listen to somebody, I hear a good song, I go to their album and I put it on. I don't know. He's too pop... I shouldn't say too pop country, because some of the people I listen to now are like as pop country as they fucking get, and they're some of my favorite artists right now. But I don't know. I just never got into Jason Aldean.
So my premise with Jason Aldean is that I saw him at the York Fair 2 years ago.
I believe Alicia was there as well.
Interesting.
Actually, no. I think she
I feel like Alicia wouldn't have gone because it was raining its ass off.
No, someone got tickets for free and she went with them. Or it was like really cheap or something. I remember she went, I think it was at the York Fair.
It was raining its ass off and we were in the pit. So like we were just so wet.
I hear he's really good live, though.
He is amazing live. That man understands the concept of I am an entertainer.
I've heard from my brother-in-law actually, and from Alicia, that he actually puts on a really good album. Really good.
His
really
supporting
good show.
musicians are just next level. I wasn't really huge on his drummer. I don't like drummers that like showboat with the.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, no, you're not playing for Ozzy.
Yeah.
It's like, chill, man. Like, you're drumming. You're not having, a cheerleading squad. So to that end, I don't think Jason's songs are transcendent of time. Like, there's some that are good. There's some that are really, really good.
Mm-hmm. But
it's his performance of them that makes him as a musician amazing. So in context, that's where I think that, honorable mention, especially this album, because like there wasn't a lot on this one.
There really was, like, this year and 2015 were really lacking in the release department.
Yeah, except for that fourth one on 2014. That's like fire.
See, I'll tell you then. So the top 4, Logic, Under Pressure. This is the Logic album. This is the one. It is a banger front to back. I still listen to this album to this day, front to back. I love every song. It is absolutely perfect, incredible. It is just untouchable in the discography of Logic. It is fantastic. I love it. Can't get enough of it. Does it? Yes? No?
I like it. I played a couple songs off this when I was DJing.
It's not the answer that you should have said, but I'll let it slide. Knocked Loose Pop Culture. Want to talk about heavy music? God damn, this band will make you throw trash cans at shows.
Oh, is this the one that did it?
No. I've never seen Knocked Loose, and there's probably a good reason for that. Dude, this band, especially like this album.
Wait a minute. You said trash cans?
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you meant chairs. Guess that's a country thing.
So, yeah, this was like their first push onto the scene, and it was full force. Dude, I remember listening to, like, I was like, who's this band everyone's talking about? And I put them on. Oh, my God, dude. It's just one of those songs, like, this album is just filled with songs that you're just like, I could do violent things at a show to this song, because it is just heavy as nails.
Is this the band that's like the hardcore version of Knuckle Puck?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about, but no. This band is just heavy. And just, like, their lyrics are very anti-certain things. And it's, dude, it's...
What do they tune in?
as low as you can go. They probably play 8 strings.
Just give everybody a bass.
Dude, they are heavy. And they just put out new music that I discovered as I was building this list. And I was like, oh, they put out new music, and I listened to it. Jesus. Gideon, Calloused. Like I said, ever since that Costs album, they've been putting out bangers. This is another one. This was more melodic and had more like singing in it, but it's an absolute ripper of an album from front to back. I can put it on and like listen to the entire thing, and when it's done, I'm like, I could probably listen to this again. It's really, really good. Gideon is just one of those bands that every time they release an album, put it on, because it's absolutely incredible. And then this one you picked, Newfound Glory, Resurrection. My hot take. I don't really care for Newfound Glory. They
Whoa. So, like, I thought you were going to say I didn't really care for this album, but then you pivoted and just, like, declared that you didn't care for the whole damn band. And now...
So, they're just one of those bands where when the hits come on, I'll listen to it and sing along and stuff. But to put on an album from front to back, I couldn't. Like the songs that come on, like to think right off the cuff is My Friends Over You, All Downhill From Here. Then I feel like there's like 2 or 3 other like songs that were popular.
Truth of My Youth.
Nope.
One More Round.
Nope.
Coming Home.
Nope.
You clearly haven't listened to enough Newfound Glory to make a decision on this.
Well,
I feel like the Chick-fil-A girl in that video where the girl says barbecue sauce and she's like, no Chick-fil-A sauce? It's like, no Newfound Glory, but you fucking like Gideon? Like,
so what are... I feel like the songs that most of the songs I know are off Sticks and Stones.
exactly. So you haven't even gone beyond that.
I listened to Catalyst. Is that even the name of the album? Catalyst?
Yeah, the one with the like weird.
Yeah, that had
dude
All
on the
Downhill
front.
From Here. It was
Right.
like all like...
They have an entire album of movie songs.
Well, yeah, they did Kiss Me.
Yeah, well, I mean that sucked, but sorry, it did. Like their rendition of "Kiss Me" by Sixpence None the Richer. It's just like, please, no.
Yeah, they just... I don't know what it is about them. I think it's his nasally voice. I just never like got into them like heavily.
I'm gonna need you to listen to the entire Newfound Glory discography for this week, and get back to me on an answer.
Okay, I will do
just
that.
Weather through it.
I'll do that.
I think it will gain track, especially if you listen to, like, if you want to parse it down to one album to listen to the album that was live from Chain Reaction, because it's got like all the good stuff, and it's live, so you get that like Newfound Glory, like because the live performance is part of Newfound Glory's like charm.
Yeah.
So getting that aspect to it is important.
I think for me, for 2014, it's Logic Under Pressure. Dude, that album is absolute perfection. Me and Alicia could listen to that album for days and just never get tired of it.
Are you being paid?
No.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Really? We should fix that. Newfound Glory. Resurrection was a rebirth, if you will.
Yeah.
It was just like that stuff. It just they were like, oh, this is how we play pop punk now. Okay, we'll play. It's like, you guys thought it was checkmate on our old asses? No, this is redefining. And if you listen to like Catalyst and then put on One More Round from Resurrection, you can hear it. Like you'll appreciate how they evolved as everything else evolved, and thus managed to stay relevant.
Well, that is like, I know how relevant they've stayed and how like in the whole pop punk universe, how they've still been at the top after all these years. So I can appreciate that. So 2015, the last year here for this episode, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The honorable mention out of here, number 4. Silverstein, I'm Alive and Everything I Touch. This, again, for me, as a Silverstein album, I could put it on and listen to it from front to back, but it's not my favorite Silverstein album, again, but the songs that are on this album that are like the hits are really good, which I feel like with these Silverstein albums, like the songs that were singles and the songs that were pushed were bangers, and they were really good. But albums as a whole, this is when albums as a whole, for me, I think, like started to kind of peter off. I think. I could be wrong. But I think whole albums started to kind of go under the wayside, and it started to become more single based and more just like single song releases and blah blah blah.
He said Peter.
So 2015 yeah, Silverstein, I'm Alive and Everything I Touch is
How are you gonna say
the
that?
honorable mention. What?
How can you say that?
What?
T Swizzle just released what's it called? The Tortured Poets Society?
You can't. When you're talking about an artist and you say Taylor Swift right now,
I said T Swizzle.
yeah, anybody and their mother and their grandmother are going to sit in a room together and just like light black candles and dress in like the robes, and they're gonna like cut their hands and join hands and just gonna sing the album together as they resurrect some crazy pop culture demon that has blonde hair that just
So that's what it takes to get her here, a blood pact?
bro.
It ain't that hard.
I'm going to make a call out, even though this is not even going to reach him in the slightest. Meat Canyon should do a animation of people doing blood rituals to summon a demon to consume Taylor Swift and then birth the Antichrist.
I feel like you just opened the door to a very large lawsuit.
Imagine how awesome that would be. He did one where it was Taylor Swift. It was Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
I love Taylor Swift, though.
If you haven't watched that Meat Canyon animation, watch it. It's fantastic. I don't. I like her old.
I like her old
stuff.
stuff better, but I think she's good for society.
Okay.
Bro, like women out there supporting their man at his football games. I mean, he's more of a like card in the deck than she is.
So 2015 top 4. Story so far self-titled. What a different band that they became during this. They are much more toned down, melodic, much less softer in the voice. It's like a completely different band.
We don't talk about Bruno. Next
But,
one.
hold on. I liked the change.
Next. What?
I did. I actually, the more, like, when I first heard this, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And it was like a shock, and I was like, I don't know about this. But the more I listened to it, I was like, you know what? It's good. I'll bite. And then the more I listened to it as time went on, I was like, that's actually really good. I actually really enjoy that. So it's a nice, easy listen. When you just want to, like, throw some music on while you're doing whatever, it's a good album. Stick to Your Guns, Disobedient. This one was in the realm of Diamond and just absolute perfection. These two releases from them are just perfect. Punchy, in your face. I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm going to tell you my opinions. I'm going to tell you my beliefs. And I'm going to tell you why the world is a really messed up place and why and how it's gotten to that point. That's basically the epitome of both of these albums, and it's fantastic. If you haven't listened to either of those albums, go listen to them because they are so damn good. You're not a Stick to Your Guns fan?
I didn't say that. I just like Taylor Swift. And I find your lack of support for her disturbing.
Number 3, Yelawolf Love Story. This is when he started hitting that stride. of like putting out just because this is the start of when he would recreate his sound with every release, because he was still in like the hip hop rap realm here, just not as hardcore towards the rap part. It was more like beats, rhymes, but with a like song structure. And then like the next release after this is like when he started getting into more like the country-ish type of rap. I don't know how to describe that.
Folky rap?
Folky
maybe?
rap, sure. Like, whatever you want to call it. Country rap, folk rap.
You said it.
Whatever.
Now they're going to flag the video, and all kinds of people are going to have crazy bureaucratic things to say. And
whatever it is, he just kind of leaned towards that, and then like he would have more releases that were more hip-hop than anything, and he's a guy that's constantly evolving and constantly changing, but it's mostly for the better, and there hasn't been many like releases that you're just kind of like meh. He's always a good listen. This album's one of those like really strong releases where you could definitely throw it on from front to back, and it's a banger of an album to listen to.
I notice it's called Love Story. Is it simply a cover of Taylor's album?
No, it's not.
That's so unfortunate.
The last one is Fall Out Boy, Americana Beauty, American Psycho. And I'm going to be honest, you fed me this one because I couldn't find anything else to put on here. I stopped listening to Fall Out Boy after From Under the Cork Tree. Oh, this was the... Yeah, this album's garbage. I hated this version of Fall Out Boy.
I didn't hate it because, like, it's definitely way different than Grand Theft Autumn.
That was my prime Fall Out Boy.
But see, I wasn't like super sold on that. I kind of dig this.
I don't understand how. But you have a wide music taste like I do, but there's definitely genres that you listen to where I'm just like, no, not my cup of tea. And this is one of those genres where it's like, it's in a broader sense pop music.
Do you like the reels of the one guy that sounds like a Viking singing Disney songs?
I don't think I've ever seen it, but you can show me later. But yeah, my pick. Ooh, boy, stick to your guns. Disobedient.
Pete Wentz has my heart.
So Fall Out Boy is your pick here.
On that list, yes.
Okay. I struggled so hard to find like albums for this year in particular. It was really tough. I looked up pop punk, I looked up hardcore, I looked at the whole Wikipedia of albums in 2015, and
the biggest reason I picked Fall Out Boy for this year is because the mainstream success that was realized by the songs on that album, like the singles.
Yeah, they were huge.
The biggest takeaway I have, and I'm pretty sure this is accurate, is that they actually played a song from this album at the Victoria's Secret fashion show several years later. Like, bro.
You go from small time to big time, I guess.
If you're playing the Victoria's Secret fashion show, you're doing something right. Like, they have, I mean, granted, into like 5 years ago to today,
I just saw that you added that in the top.
The approach to Victoria's Secret has completely changed. Like, people, have gone from being like, oh, this is all I wear, to, oh, I hate this now. And... But before that, it was like, oh, yeah, there's this big thing. Let's embrace it. Make great product.
Yeah.
How many different ways can you design, a pair of fabric to support women? But they managed to probably make quite a bit of money
Yeah.
at that show, I would imagine.
Yeah.
You know, considering it's nationally televised
Yeah.
on select networks. Can't put that on Fox.
So I've played a game and that I just finished recently called Celeste. Now, this game has been talked about. It has been everybody's go-to for this genre of game. It is like creme de la creme of this genre of game. And I never touched it. I saw it, and I when the Google Stadia was a thing, they sent everybody who was like subscribed to YouTube Premium a free Google Stadia. So I got it, and I got like a free month of like the service. And I was bored one night, and it was, I think, when we first had our daughter. So I just kind of was like, I'm not gonna like go down and play games, but I can just hook this up and stream this game. So I played it for like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, and didn't think anything of it. Didn't have any opinion or feelings about it. So I just finished Final Fantasy VII Part 1. And I was looking for something else to play. And what I like to do is I like to switch up genres so that I don't get like that open world stale, like ruining my gaming to where I'm like, like I don't know what to play. Do I want to play something retro? Do I want to play something current? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? I get in these weird moods of what I want to play. So I like to switch up the genres so it's fresh every time I play a game and I don't get stuck in those ruts. So I hopped on PlayStation Plus for the premium, and I just scrolled through some games, and I was like, Celeste, everybody's been talking about that. I'm just going to download and play it. I'm just going to take the plunge. And boy, am I glad that I did, because this is just the prime example of a game that was talked about and praised, and just if you ask anybody in like the gaming scene or anything that plays like a wide variety of games that has played Celeste, they will tell you the exact same thing. Play this game. It is perfect. Just play it. It is a 10 out of 10 absolute masterpiece of a game. And I will tell you why. Everything about this game is so well crafted that it's actually mind-blowing to think about, because it's so balanced in the way that you play the game. So you're a little pixelated girl, because it's like pixel graphics, and you are climbing a mountain. That's the goal. You're climbing a mountain. The mountain's Celeste Mountain.
Some new information there. I didn't realize that this was two-dimensional.
Yes.
Okay.
So
All
it's
right.
it's a platformer, basically. Your goal is you get to a screen. Your goal is to get from this end of the screen to this end of the screen. And there's basically a puzzle that you're looking at that you have to solve. And that is from jumping, climbing, and dashing across obstacles to get to this point. As you progress through, so there's chapters, and then there's mini chapters or sections in those chapters. So it's so you navigate. As you progress, it gets harder, and there's more obstacles that you have to navigate. But there's also things on the screens that you interact with that will help you. So there's like these little bubbles that you jump into, and if you hold up, left, right, or down, or diagonal, they will give you like a little launch in that direction. What this game does is in the beginning, it tells you how to play the game. It tells you the mechanics. You jump, you climb, these are the buttons, this is how you play the game. But it doesn't hold your hand, and it doesn't like have a tutorial where you're just like, this is...
Oh, cold hand.
That is a cold hand. It's not like a tutorial where you're just like, can this go away? Like, it puts you in a thing that makes sense for the story, because there is a story in this game too, and it is incredible. So the difficulty of this game, it gets harder as you progress, and there are parts where you will die 100 times, and you're sitting there just like, how do I get from this point to this point? I don't understand, because when you jump and you dash, that is the only dash that you can do until you either land on a flat platform or you get these little diamonds that are in the areas. In some cases, they're not always there.
Makes sense. Collect diamonds, you're able to run fast. Okay.
So you have to like think about when you want to dash or how you want to dash or when you actually need to use the dash. So like you jump and you grab onto a wall and you climb up to the top and you sit there and then you jump off of that and you dash across the big opening to get to the other side. Like it's so well crafted, because I never got to a point where I wanted to give up. Never. There were parts of that game where I died probably 150 times in a row, and I could not figure out how I was supposed to get from here to here on this particular screen. And then it clicked. I was like, "Oh, I see it now." And you naturally get a quarter of the level down. You can navigate that very simply. Then you get that little bit more. You get past that halfway point, and you're like, "Okay, cool." And it's never like you die and you go back 15 minutes. No, it's you advance a screen, the next screen that changes, that is where you start every single time until that screen changes again. And there's small portions of the level that you traverse, and then it goes to the next part, and then you have to traverse that. It's insane how well crafted that game is. It blows my mind, because the soundtrack is incredible, and I think that is part of the reason why you don't get super frustrated and angry playing that game.
I mean, to be upfront, it sounds a lot like traveling from Shrewsbury to North York without hitting roadwork.
yeah. Like the soundtrack's like lo-fi. It's like kind of like just like this chill music. Yeah, like it's just real chill, and you're just playing, and you could die over and over and over and over and over again. But for some reason, you're not raging. I never once raged at this game. Not one single time.
I ain't played it yet.
I told you before we recorded this that you have to play it.
I'll play it.
I told Keith to download it and play it. Dude, it's so good. The story is just I did not expect the story to be anything of... I didn't even expect it to have a story. But it really captures... It's very much a mental health story. And it is incredible. Dude, I was down here playing. My daughter came down, and she wanted to do something, and she sat on my lap as I played right there at the desk. And I just wanted to finish up like the end of the level and just wrap it up before I went upstairs to cook dinner. So she sat on my lap, and I had gotten to a part where there was a lot of dialogue. So I was reading she wanted me to read the dialogue, because she is at that point now where she just wants me to read everything. So I was reading the dialogue, and I was like, oh my God. Like, it was to a point where like your personality in the game splits from your character. So it has the good character, and it's what's called Badeline. So your character's called Madeline. The character, the thing that breaks apart from you is called Badeline. So it's like the bad part of Madeline.
So we are encountering a case of schizophrenia.
No. It's basically like coming to grips with like your flaws, your all of like the bad parts of you, like the way that your brain works when you're anxious or you're scared or you're sad or whatever. Like
I'm unfamiliar.
it it's all of those parts of like your personality, and it just like breaks off, and like they have this back and forth and you battle, and it's like kind of Madeline coming to terms with like, this isn't, all of these emotions and all of these feelings and all of these things that I have aren't really bad to begin with. Why did I ever think that they were bad? They're actually good. They're what make me who I am. They're what allow me to, you know, it's a whole thing.
It establishes self-awareness.
So yes. So I was reading this dialogue, and that's the part that I was at, and I was like, my God. And I had to explain, like, because she, of course, is asking questions. And I'm like, well, yeah. I said, that's you. I said, that's your character that I am. And I said, and that's the bad part of her personality. And she was like, personality? And I said, well, yeah, everyone has a personality. And, you know, there's some traits to your personality that, you know, you don't really understand yet. You know, I'm talking to a 4-year-old. So
she's the expert, man. She's got to figure
she
it all out.
runs upstairs and she goes, Mommy, everybody has personalities. It was adorable. But dude, this game is absolutely just hands down one of the best games I've ever played. It's so damn good. And I had not even thought that I was going to even finish the game going into it. It's so good. The pacing of it's just so well done. There are games like this that are like mimicking what this game did.
I'll play it.
But it like they didn't do it as well, and they never will do it as well as Celeste.
Sounds like it was a really great candidate for the original Game Boy.
You could probably play it. There's, funny enough, there's a hidden area in one of the levels, because there's a lot of like hidden secrets in this game. There's like little collectibles. There's strawberries. Then there's cassette.
Mental health games, hidden secrets. Okay.
There's cassette tapes that you find, and they're B-sides. So the B-sides. So you have, you know, Chapter 3, and then you have Chapter 3 B-side. The B-side is a harder version of Chapter 3, and it is much harder. So they give you, like, more of a challenge. Now, I believe after you beat it, or maybe before you jump into it, they have what's called assist mode. So what you can do is you can turn on, like, infinite health, infinite dash, to basically where like you can just close your eyes and beat the level.
So basically the whole "are you a little bitch" thing.
Yeah, basically yes. But what I like about that,
you used it, didn't you?
No, I did not. What I like about that is, say my daughter saw me playing it and she wanted to play it too. That game's not going to be fun for her to play as it is. I can throw that on. She can't even fall down the holes and die, because when she falls and she hits where you would fall down and disappear off screen, it just bounces.
Is that going to make the game really, really quick for her then?
No. So if I put that on for her to play, and I put assist mode on and put all that stuff on, she still has to climb and she still has to like wall jump and stuff to get to where she needs to go. So she still does have to problem solve and figure it out. But it's going to be much less punishing for her if I put those things on. Which
probably not good guidance as a child. I feel like
you can see now you can control those things too. You can change what things are on and what things are off. So I could turn off the basically like if you fall in the hole you don't die. I could turn that off, but she could still land on spikes and not take damage.
There we go.
or you can like limit the amount of numbers of dashing you can use.
Okay.
So like when you are playing the game, you get 1. After you beat the game, you get 2. And then you can change it in the assist settings to unlimited, to where like you can just dash however many times you need. Which it's obviously, if you know how to use it, it's going to make it much easier. But for a 4-year-old to look at it, it's not going to click in their brain.
Yeah, I mean, like with a
like
4-year-old,
just dash.
With a 4-year-old, I think you want to make it, easy enough to where they don't get distracted, but punitive enough to where they understand that if you do something wrong, there's a consequence.
Yes.
And
so you can make it that, but you can make it like, look, just try a little harder or do this, and then they get that reward of like finishing that part of the level, and they're like, oh my gosh, I did it, and then they get the next part, and they want to keep playing. Like, that's what's really great about this game is like you do get, like, when you're playing it normally, you do get to this point where you're like, I cannot figure this out, and like part of you wants to put it down, but part of you is like, I don't, because I am enjoying this and I want to beat this so bad. And then you finally get past that part and you're just like, yes, finally. And it's not just, it doesn't progress from easy to hard to harder to harder to harder. It varies. There's parts that I cruised through and there's parts that I could not figure out, and then it finally clicked. That's why I'm saying, like, the pacing of this game was just so well done that it's just an absolute masterpiece of a game. Like, it doesn't drive you to the point of insanity because you've died 1,000 times, but it doesn't make you want to put the controller down. It makes you want to keep playing and progress. So like and with the assist options, you can have a variety of audiences play, and you can customize that experience to fit that age group, which I think is just, it's not utilized enough. And I think if more games utilized it, they might sell a little better with some of the games that don't sell as well. I think if you did something like this where it's like it's not just assist mode, it's assist mode, but you can customize how you're getting the assist. I can't say enough good things about this game.
Clearly.
It's so good. Play it.
Yeah, I mean, usually we put the TLDR up front, but it's a bit late for that.
So another thing I want to talk to you about, because
oh god,
you're not connected to the game collecting world. You're not a game collector. You're not really a collector of anything really that I know of.
I have collections.
What?
I guess you could arguably call me a model train collector. I have quite a few of those that I've acquired over the years. Used to do slot cars, like HO slot cars, back when I was early teens. Right before that, did that with my dad. He still has his collection of that is huge. What else do I collect? Oh, my biggest collection, my favorite collection. Bad memories. Trauma.
We're all collectors of that.
But game collecting, no, I don't, and there's a reason. But
well, what is that reason?
So I struggle to find, you can't really see on camera, but behind you have shelves upon shelves of mostly, like in that case, movies, but at least one with games. There's so many.
There's two shelves here. Well, it's like multiple shelves per unit, but there's 2 unit shelves here that have games on it of all varieties.
But to that point, there's so many games. Like, games are plentiful. And, stuff like Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut, $1,000 out of box. Like,
I think it's more than that now.
I don't know. There's one out on eBay for like $150,000 complete in box with Blockbuster paperwork, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll give me a house, a Ferrari, not this.
Yeah.
So I see value in video games. I see value in perpetuating the life of these video games by owning them. I don't see value for me personally in owning something that, like Jack Nicklaus Golf for the NES.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need it for a collection? Probably. Am I ever going to touch it? No. And to that end, that $2 could be better spent on just about anything else in my house.
So when I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase it. So when you sit down to play, because you do play games, you do play games, whether it's new or whether it's like revisiting a like classic, so to speak. You do that basically through like the average person's means of doing that is like either the digital library of like PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Premium, whatever you want to call it, with their like classics catalog, their the monthly games, or like the catalog of games that they offer for you to play, whether it's like a PS3 game, a PS4 game, or what have you. You play those kinds of games, or are you more of like a I'm gonna play this multiplayer game and like progress with it? Because I know you play sports games. I know you're playing like, you've played some NHL, you've played some Madden, you've played some racing, and you've played, what was the other one that I saw?
Bowling.
You play baseball. You play a baseball game. You
those.
have played ball. You play bowling. Yeah.
So I do a lot with sports games. Like NHL was big for me for a while there. I found a lot of fun in that. Sometimes I will download them. Sometimes I'll actually go out and buy the hard copy.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm consuming a retro game, honestly, it's usually actually having that console and that game.
Yeah, because
Like-
you do have like your old consoles. You do, from what I understand, you have an N64. I think you have a Super Nintendo.
Yep.
And I think
I have a Nintendo.
you have a regular Nintendo.
I also have PlayStation 4, 3, no longer 2. Well, we kind of share 2.
It's
and
right over there.
Yeah, there it is. And somewhere I have a PlayStation 1 with the mobile display. So I'll find it eventually. We just got to get down there, but there's other stuff I got to figure out before we go to do that.
Which the weather is getting nicer, so you let me know when you need help with that. We'll bang it out.
Yeah, it won't be this week because
Well, clearly.
trying to figure out what I'm doing for a car, but that's another story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, game collecting, like, I think it's cool. That's why I have all my old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If I truly had all my old stuff, I probably would have most of the collection completed still, because at one point I had, I think, like 80 or 90 NES games, and my Super Nintendo collection was easily 100 games when I was a kid. And then, you get into PlayStation, but over the years, as a kid, I don't have a way to make money. I have these games. You trade in games.
Trade them in for all
and then it's like, trade in, upgrade, and get screwed over in the process. But, it got me from point A to point B, and that's what I was worried about as a kid. I was worried about, having the latest thing that I wanted to experience, and not so much retaining what I had already played 100 times.
Yeah.
Today, I could probably use some of those, but...
Yeah, I've gotten to that. I had that point, where I wasn't actively collecting like old stuff or anything. I was moving from point A to point B, and I wanted, the 360, and I only wanted to play X games for the 360 at that point. And when it was time, when I finished that game, it was like, okay, trade those in to get the next game, because I didn't have a lot of money and all the money in the world to go buy a brand new game. But, like, now, or, for quite a while, I've been collecting and getting old stuff. And, like, I've tried to figure out what kind of collector that I want to be and where do I draw the line and how do I go about, figuring out what games I want in my collection. Because that is a really big thing to figure out. Like, if you decide to go down the collecting rabbit hole, is like, it's very easy to just buy what's popular or what's high dollar or what's obscure or what's cheap or whatever, and you're just collecting these games that you're just kind of like accumulating for no reason. Where for me, I'm trying to get to the point where like I have a collection of games that I can enjoy. I can go to my shelf, I can drag my finger across, pull out, and be like, oh yeah, this game. I remember this, or I just actually finished this for the first time, and I'd actually like to play it again, or whatever. Like, if I just look back here for a second, and I'm like, oh, Dead Island for the PS3. Like, yeah, I've beaten that game. I love that game. I still have the original save file that I had on my PS3 that has, like, hacked guns and weapons that somebody dropped one time for me online, and it's like a shotgun that if I shoot one of the zombies, they launch across the map. It's wild, but I enjoy this game enough where I can put it in my collection, and I'm like, yes, I will one day probably pick up this game and probably play it again. Or when my kids want to play games, I can be like, hey, this game was good. Play this game for the PS3. And then, I can look up in Mario 64.
Do you have a PS3?
Yes, I do.
Where?
It's right underneath my 360 over there at my desk.
Oh. Look at that. Guess what?
What?
I bet you it's dusty as hell because it hasn't been touched.
Yeah, you go through spurts. And again, I'm the kind of person that I want to play whatever games at the most convenient way to play those games. That's just the kind of person I am. Like, if it's Mario 64, like, I can play it on my Switch through the N64 like emulator on the Switch. But I'm going to be honest, and I'm kind of realizing this now, it is a much different experience playing that kind of game on the Switch than sitting down in one of these chairs playing it on Old Faithful here. It's much better experience sitting down here playing the actual cartridge than it is playing it on the Switch. If I'm in a pinch, playing it on the Switch is, what I have to do. But
well, the redefinition of the controller is huge for that. So
yeah, even if it's not an N6, even if we're just talking like NES or Super NES, like I've come to realize in my ignorance, so to speak, that it is much better to sit down and play on the console than it is to, like, if you're looking to play it as a like actual playthrough. If I'm looking to like play something for the first time or test something out. So if I never played Mario 64 and I was picking it up for the first time, and I'm a brand new budding game collector, and I decide I want to buy an N64 so I can play Super Mario 64. Am I going to enjoy Super Mario 64 as this new budding game collector that wants to play games? I have a Switch because I like to follow like the new things, and it's the newest console or whatever. I can play Mario 64 on my Switch, so I'm going to try it out before I go and collect that game, so to speak. So when I can play it on my Switch and be like, okay, this is a game that I want to have. So when I'm looking at games that I haven't played on the NES or games I haven't played on the Super NES, before I pick up a cartridge, like if it's a rather pricey cartridge, I will play it on my Switch to try and get a gauge of whether or not this is a game I want to try before I spend X amount of dollars on the cartridge. that's kind of how I gauge like the like retro-esque type for my collection. So,
but you're spending yearly to get the access on the Switch.
yes, I am. But also, I do play, like if I'm playing something on my Switch and I'm like diving in to play something on my Switch that's a retro game, it is nice to have it for that. Like, I don't always come down here to play games. Sometimes I'm up in the living room and I'm just relaxing, or if I'm sick or what have you, or I just don't want to come down here to do that. I can just pick up my Switch and play it. So, like, I can play the game without having to physically come down here, hook it up and everything, because sometimes you just don't have that opportunity, especially with a second kid coming.
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to be a little less so in the first couple of months when he arrives.
I certainly wouldn't give you as much grief about playing retro games on the Switch as I do if you were to sign an agreement not to use that flashback feature. Because
Dude,
they weren't designed to be consumed that way.
I agree 100%. The reason that I use that rewind feature,
it's bullshit,
is to save myself some time when I'm just trying to enjoy the game.
It's bullshit.
Say what you will about the rewind feature.
You weren't supposed to be able to do that. That was part of the experience. That was your sacrifice to the game in order to get further.
Yes. But
they just said,
I also
no.
had much more time to put into that game.
Irrelevant.
When I was playing that game.
Just because your situation changes doesn't mean the game situation has to change too. The game is still the game.
Yes, it is. 100%.
If you hate, what's it called? Rewind?
Mm-hmm.
Like this video.
If people make it to this part of
No,
the
you're
video,
clipping that for a short.
yeah, probably. But the original part of why we got into this conversation is I find that there are mainly two types of collectors. There are collectors that collect for like the clout of collecting, of like, hey, look what I have, and just show it off like every chance they get, because it's, $1,000 plus game, or they have just a shelf filled with $400 per game and it's just filled to the brim. But then you have the game collectors that collect because they either love the console that they're collecting for. People that go for complete sets like the NES, the Super NES, the N64, whatever console you're going for a complete set for, like, you are going after that for a reason. And it's probably because you have a very strong connection to that console.
So let me say this. This isn't just game collecting.
It's collecting in everything.
This is just collecting. If you're collecting for clout because you think it's cool when people look at your shelf that has $13,000 worth of golf balls on it, or games, or whatever, if you are sheerly putting those there and buying them so that when people look at them, they are impressed by the amount of money you were able to spend, you are an asshole and really need to reevaluate your priorities. Because the amount of money you spend on anything should not have a reflection upon how people view you, and you shouldn't care about that.
I agree 100%. Now, like, I can respect the fact that there are people that just collect, anything, whether it's baseball cards, Pokemon cards, video games, coins, whatever you collect. There is always going to be a select amount of people that just collect the rare stuff, the expensive stuff, because that's like their way of doing it. That's just what they like. But they're not the ones that are there showing it off all the time.
Yeah, like if I walk into somebody's house and I'm looking at, gosh, I'm going to get flamed for this, their stamp collection.
Yeah.
And they're like just pointing at different ones on the page, and it's like, that one there was $4,500, took me 3 years to find, and that one there was $10,000, took me, I think I spent 8 years looking for that, and that one there, I don't even know if you can put a price on that. I'm going to turn around at him and be like, dude, I just saw your kid eating generic ramen upstairs. Like,
Now, but if they're the kind of collector that are like, yeah, it took me 10 years to find this, or it took me 8 years to find this, like, they've been collecting for a while and they've been seeking that out for quite some time. So if they're just like, yeah, man, I just picked up this rare Super Mario 64. It's this X edition. It cost $10,000. I got it on an auction for $9,000, and boy, is it great! And you're just like, cool, like
that's neat. I'll bet you somebody artificially inflated the price of that.
Do you like Mario 64? And there's like, I don't even know what it is. And you're just like, what? Huh? And there's like, yeah, I just collected it because it's $10,000. And you're just, okay. And they're like, oh, yeah, let me show you this. I have this sculptor's cut that's like sealed. I don't think that exists. But for the sake of the conversation, when you're showing like those kinds of people where it's like, yeah, man, I got this. It's graded a 10. And you're just like, cool, man. Like, do you like that game? And they're like, I don't even know what it is.
People that collect for the sake of spending money make no point.
Yes.
And I'm sorry that if I use the A word, but
the people that collect
where I'm at on
these
that.
Rare and like expensive things, like where they're just collecting that, but they're not out flaunting it, and they have other underlying reasons on why. If they're just like, yeah, it's just how I collect.
But also,
I can respect that 100%.
I agree. But also, to say that you've been, or it took you 8 years to find a rare thing, I don't really know that I agree with that positioning either, because are you actively seeking that particular item for 8 years? Like, you actually going out and looking for it and, like, you know, making an effort? Or have you just happened to have been collecting these things for 8 years by the time you found that? There
can be multiple scenarios, I guess, because, like, you know, there's game collectors that have their grails where they've been collecting for 20 years. Everything that they've bought in person, whether it's at conventions or through trades or stores or what have you. They like to physically go to the places to buy the games, but they have this one thing on the list where if they see it out in public and it's the condition that they want and it's the variant that they want and all the stars align, they're like, I need this because this is something that I've been chasing after for 20 years and I've yet to see it in person, and here it is in front of my face. And I have the opportunity to buy it finally after 20 years. That is a very respectable thing.
Do it. Absolutely. But don't do it and say, hey, it took me 20 years to find this. I don't think you spent every waking moment looking for this thing for 20 years. Maybe it was on your mind.
I mean, actively seeking, yeah. Like, if you're actively seeking, like, maybe. But, I don't know. It can be taken two different ways. So there's people that collect for, like, bragging rights and clout. Or there's people that collect because they enjoy just collecting as a whole and they've chosen the thing that they collect. Or they collect because they love playing these games, which is where I fall in to the game collecting circle. Is like, I enjoy playing the games. That's what I love doing. I love losing myself in a story, in a game. I love just, mindlessly playing a platformer or playing a sports game. Like, I love just losing myself in a game.
There's also people that collect for investment.
That is a big thing, especially recently with, especially with trading cards. But you have to really know what you're getting into.
I think with trading cards and stuff like that, it's a little bit of a crapshoot.
Well, yes and no, because there's a guy on YouTube, Alpha Investments, who I've watched many, many times. He was a Wall Street guy. He quit his Wall Street job, invested X amount of dollars that he had into reserve list Magic cards. And then now he has built an entire empire, basically, of buying reserve list cards, Power 9, the dual lands, Volcanic Island, Underground Sea, Tropical Island. Cards that Wizard says, hey, we won't reprint this again. And he buys sealed product, and he has just these... He knows what to do, and he knows how to properly invest, and he actually lends investment advice to other people to be like, hey, this sealed product here is going to go up. It's on the trend up. I have 2 cases of it. You guys can have first dibs as my Patreons. You can have first dibs to buy the sealed product. So
here's Patreon?
He does. He does have a Patreon.
Are you one of his patrons?
No, I am not. I promise I am not. I have never gone down that road. If there's one thing you need to know about me, I am terrible at buying things for investment, and I'm bad at flipping things. I am so bad at both those things.
That's bullshit. I've seen you flip a table.
I can flip a table, yes, but I cannot flip, buy things to resell. I've done it with certain things because I've, gotten more knowledgeable over the years, but...
Well, look at the TVs.
Yeah. yeah. You do a job to clean out a arcade of all old monitors and stuff, and you get a free 55-inch TV that now you use as a teleprompter.
Is that where this came from?
Yeah. It was perfect working condition. All I needed was a plug. That's where that came from.
Work.
I think that pretty much covers what we should cover.
Yeah, I'd save the 2 for next week. We can open with the other one. Right out the gate. Set the expectation early.
Yeah. Yeah. Here, actually, you know what? Gonna do another small segment here.
Nope, I got my segment. Don't you turn it. Nope, I got it.
Hold on.
What's the answer to the riddle?
Oh, I forgot about the riddle. I don't know, if I'm being honest. Bread or a key? Why did he take the bread instead of the key?
Right.
I don't know.
So the key is representative of freedom. If he was born in prison, he wouldn't understand what freedom gets him, but he does understand hunger. Therefore, the prisoner was born in prison.
Ah, I see. That makes sense. That is definitely something I never would have thought about that, ever.
Now you can do whatever you want. I don't just.
Now I lost what I was gonna do.
How did you lose it? It was there. It's still on the shelf. It's not. Like
I know. I was just gonna choose something here and have you select this.
Oh, this or that?
Kind of. So here, okay. I'll end it on 2 questions for you, because now that the people know more about your connection to video games. With the consoles. Let me rephrase. Actually, no. Let me ask you a completely different question. You have stuff from your childhood, your old consoles with a handful of games for each, correct?
I have 1 game for Super Nintendo.
What is the game for Super Nintendo that you have?
Championship Pool.
Interesting choice.
It's the
but
game
it doesn't surprise me.
It's the game my grandfather and I played together the most on it. So
okay, that makes sense.
Like that could never go anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any. I think I have Super Mario 3 for NES.
You probably have Super Mario 3 for the NES.
I don't know if I have any of the other ones left. I'm sure somewhere I do. I think I have like 4 games for PS3. Most are for PS4. Might be like 2 PS1 games, maybe 13 or 14 PS2 games, 2 Genesis games, partridge in a pear tree. And an original Game Boy.
Nice. So out of those consoles and games, why do you still have them? Out of, as the years have progressed, you've gotten rid of things and parted with things. Why do you still have these systems? Why do you still have these games? And do you have an attachment to the systems and or the games?
If you're trying to buy them, they're not for sale.
No, I'm not.
Damn it.
Just a general question.
Shit.
I mean, obviously, if you have games to sell, then yeah, I will definitely take a look. But completely off, not even the reason I'm asking the question. Just a general question.
So I kept the consoles because I didn't know how available they would be for repurchase later.
Mm-hmm.
It seems make more sense to keep the one that you had when you were a kid than to get rid of it for $10 and, have to buy it back down the road. But also to that extent, I have Legos from when I was a kid, like the whole Rock Raiders collection. I still have the whole thing right there, built with instructions. The Lego soccer field kit, that's like partially built. So for me, when I started to get older, it was like, should I donate these? Should I throw it out? And my grandmother was always like, well, if you ever have a son of your own, that might be a good idea to just hang on to that, because I'm not sure they're going to have it when,
Mm-hmm.
you're older. And if you want to share that memory with him, it would be important. Well, turns out I had a daughter.
I mean, you can
pivots
still,
a bit, but
she can still enjoy those things.
well, yeah, and she does. Like the N64 set up in my living room.
Yeah.
And she's played Mario Kart, Super Mario 64, Wave Race 64, all that with me. She gets really, really frustrated because I grew up with it. I beat her. She did not grow up with it and is not very good at it, but we won't tell her I said that. So for me, it's part nostalgia, part like paying it forward.
Yeah, I mean, as dads, well, you do collect things as like an interest, or you do like keep things as an interest because you've always played some sort of games, no matter if it was brand new at the time or what have you. You've always had this interest in video games over the years. You've always been at some point playing a video game in your life, regardless.
Yeah. I did a lot of PC gaming as a kid.
So keeping those things, it makes sense because you're like, this is an interest that I have, and like, who knows when I want to go back to it or what have you. Like, some people just literally will just throw it in a closet or throw it in a storage unit, and they'll just keep it. And then, when you become a dad, that's when you are like really looking back on the things that you had as a kid, and you're like, I would love to share my love for this with my kid, or my love for that with my kid, or what have you. And like your interests that you carry, like for me, it's video games and stuff like that. Like, when I get to enjoy that with my daughter, it's really fun because she's starting to take an interest in playing video games, and she is looking for my input, and I'm leading her interest in video games. So it's like I'm the one that's going to build her, whether if she wants to play games in the future or not. But if she becomes a gamer and she likes playing games, my influence of what I like will follow into her, and she will then have those as like my dad showed me that, or that was
right
what me and my dad used to play, or stuff. Like, you're building those memories with your kids by sharing your interests. And,
exactly.
Same thing, with when my son gets to, which is still weird to say, when my son gets here and he gets to be what Lydia's age is now and starts to get his interests, like What's that going to look like? Is he going to have an interest in games, or is he going to be a person that's more into sports? Where if he's like, Dad, I want to play baseball, and it's like, well, now I get to take a interest that I never get to use, and now me and him get to throw the ball in the backyard.
What if he takes an interest in dolls?
I mean, have at it, brother.
To that point, though, everything has its value.
Yeah.
Everything has its price. And I think the biggest takeaway, for me over the years is that the value of those things sentimentally never justified accepting the price that they would get me.
Yeah, it's always. I'm genuinely curious because I've met a bunch of people that they aren't game collectors. They don't actively collect video games, but they have bins of games from when they were a kid that they just have in storage, or it's in their basement, or it's in their attic, or wherever they store it. But they're not. It's not even a thought in their mind on like playing it. And I always wonder, because I don't get to ask them, or I don't get to sit down and talk to people, but like I always want to ask them, like, genuinely, because I don't want to come off as rude to a complete stranger. But I'm just like, hey, why do you hold on to those things? Like, you don't play them, you don't actively flex the ability to go out and play those games or share those games with whoever. Like, why do you still have them? Like, what is it about those things that you've just decided to keep?
I would say it's almost 90% sentimental.
Yeah, that's again.
Like
That's,
their parents probably got it for them or something like that, and maybe their parents aren't here anymore, and
which makes, like, I can understand that and I can respect that, and like that.
We know
Exactly.
But I'm trying to keep you from like diving down a bad path on this episode. So
no, so with you, I was always kind of like curious. I mean, we've probably talked about it a time because we talk all the time. But with like certain things that you like, you'll just randomly send me a picture of like your N64, and I'm just like, are you playing it or something? Like,
just
or
looking at it.
You're just like, yeah, like this,
Just
or you
here.
just send me a picture of Pokemon Blue in the transfer pack, and I'm like, huh? Like, what?
I have the whole Tech Deck skate park, man. Remember?
Yeah, and stuff like that too. Like, even like the most random things, like people have like Tech Deck stuff or Legos or just the most random of things that obviously you're not gonna sit down at your dining room table and set up the Tech Deck skate park and just go to town.
I don't think it would fit. I'll be honest with you. Like, it's got the half pipe with the roll in and loop, like the Tony Hawk thing that he did back in the day. There's a bowl. There's a 4-way. There's two ways. One of them I think is ramps and steps, and the other one is a grind rail and a quarter pipe. There's like a picnic table, a bench.
Dude, that you just unlocked a memory for me. My friend Eric, I used to go to his sister's house and stay for like the weekend or a week at a time, like in the summer. He lived at my house, and I would have points where I like stayed at his sister's house, because this was like where we would skate all the time, but like I couldn't drive at the time because I was only probably like 13 or 14 or so. But we would go back and forth to whoever's house, and like I wanted my freedom and stuff like that, so we would go to his sister's house, and her husband at the time was really involved in like making sure we were having fun. So like he had a GameCube, and we would go out and we would rent Conflict Desert Storm, where all three of us could sit down at the TV and play.
That was on GameCube?
Yeah. So we'd played Conflict Desert Storm, or we played Medal of Honor, and he was real creative. So we played with tech decks and like the bikes and stuff. He literally went down. He had a piece of plywood on a table. He put a piece of plywood on a table. It wasn't huge, but he went through and made terrain and put like little sprinkles of grass in it. He glued some of the tech deck pieces, like the steps with the rail and stuff, down onto the plywood in a skate park setup. And he planned a whole RPG based like campaign basically on just starting out as a, whatever, and how the probability you have of landing this trick in a competition, and you compete and you get points and you put those points towards these, and as you progress you have a better probability of landing these tricks. And it was like a whole thing, and he had like this whole elaborate setup. It was insane. But that you just said about like all of like the different things, and it made me remember that. And like that is insane to me to think about, especially now, because it's like nobody's doing that now. Nobody's paying that much attention to their kid. They're not even their kids' friends. It was his wife's little brother and his friends.
I wish I had your brain. I unlocked a memory last night. I was getting dragged across the street by my German Shepherd when I was like 6 or 7, holding his leash. Like skinned the shit out of my face and my knees and like my elbows, and I'm just like, wonder what made me remember that.
See, that's why I like being like a game collector and being involved in like watching like the stuff, and because I have all the content in the world to consume on YouTube. I just dive down deep rabbit holes of watching the content creators that I enjoy watching. And like as I'm watching certain things, like it unlocks these like little memories of this game or that game, or oh, I forgot about that, or this or that, or things that I enjoy, and it's like all positive things, and I can just keep the negative things like kind of at bay, except the normal anxiety and of just everyday life. There was one more question before we close this out, and now I'm drawing a blank on what I wanted to ask you, because we got much deeper into that than I thought we would.
Well, my knees are timing out, so
I'll ask you this question. If you could do one thing not with your life, but if you could do one thing that you have done as a hobby and have it be successful, out of all the things that you've done, what would you choose to be doing as like a successful either hobby or career that some of them have been?
probably should have stuck with golf.
Golf. I didn't expect that answer. I'm going to be honest. I expected you to say like playing music.
Kind of still doing that. So I still see like jury's still out. I mean, I was asked twice this year about playing for bands. So it's like, actually it came up today for another one, and I don't think that's done yet.
Okay.
Golf, on the other hand, 10-year hiatus. I might still be able to hit it a mile, but I definitely can't putt like I used to.
Yeah, but get back on the horse, buddy. Let's go golfing together.
Oh, we will.
Good. Now that's the positive answer that I'm looking for.
We
here.
will. I'm just not going to shoot 65 and rub it in your face.
You don't have
like
to.
I would have
But you can still
15
make me
years
look
ago.
like a way worse golfer than I am.
You do a good enough job of that on your
I
own.
know. I am not that great of a golfer. But I have my moments.
That's crap. You're better than you let yourself onto.
Maybe.
I've seen you golf.
Maybe not. I have my rounds for sure. Where like if I start my round with like a great shot, that's a setup for the round just being good. If I set my round up with like sculling it or just an awful
stop.
slice,
Doesn't matter. That's the point. Once you hit that shot, it's done. That doesn't define your round.
well,
That's where you can get better.
Mentally,
That's where you can get better.
okay.
That was how I struggled a lot.
I see you.
And, it took a lot to where, you shank one off the first tee and you're like, well, doesn't really set the great tone for the day. But that's one shot out of your total.
Very true.
It might impact the second shot.
Yeah, because if you land in the rough,
Maybe the third. But beyond that hole, it's a clean slate. There's no reason to be upset about that from that point forward. You're not doing yourself any favors, and if you want to score as well as you possibly can, you need to learn to let that go.
Wise words from Mr. Andy over here for all you golfers out there. Wise words. Take us out, Andy.
Real quick.
Oh.
To your point about music,
Mm-hmm.
my drum kit's in the driveway. Until next time, we're Dad's Game Room.